Call to order the Planning Commission public hearing and regular session agenda. Cape Charles Civic Center, March 5th, 2019, 6 p.m. You want a roll call?
Rosen present.
Yamaco present.
McCoy present.
Scott present.
Drew present.
We have a quorum. It's a public hearing. Cape Charles Town Planning Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, March 5th, 2019 at 6 p.m. in the Town Civic Center at 500 Tazewell Avenue, Cape Charles, to receive comments on the following: an application for a conditional use permit to allow an accessory dwelling unit at 615 Monroe Avenue, tax map number 83 Alpha 3-1-2-2-43 Bravo. Proposed text amendment to the zoning ordinance, Article 4, Section 4.5.1, adding a mixed-use designation to the table of parking standards and regulating the minimum off-street parking requirements for mixed-use development. Proposed text amendments to zoning ordinance, Article 4, Section 4.5.f.1.k, adding a requirement that new mixed-use developments delineate residential parking spaces with appropriate signage. Information on these public hearings can be viewed in the Town Planner's office at 2 Plum Street, Cape Charles Town Hall, or obtained by phone 757-331-2039 or email at planner@capecharles.org. Do we have any public comments?
We do not have any public comments here, nor any submitted.
Okay, so we have the no public comments. So commission, we have no public comments.
I'll propose, make a motion to close public hearing.
Second. All in favor? Opposed? You guys got to
Yeah, we gotta get with it.
yeah. Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing and move to the regular meeting. All right? We'll all stand for a moment of silence. Join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Did you say we had no comments?
We had no comments for the public hearing part, and we do have comments for the regular comment section. The one that is here is Steve Loomis, 628 Washington Avenue.
Okay, so we're at public comment now. You have 3 minutes.
3 minutes? Won't take that long.
Right.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Steve Loomis. I live at 628 Washington Avenue. My parents live at 240 Randolph Avenue. And the reason I came in here tonight was for the proposal of rezoning 238 Randolph Avenue from R1 to C1. My parents, due to health issues, are unable to attend tonight, so they asked me to speak not only for myself, but on their behalf. We are against it, and I'd like to go on record saying we're against it. I think that the town planner did an excellent job of spelling out the issues of why that would not fit in the historic district of town. And one of the main things is I don't think anyone in town with a standard lot, 40 by 140, would want a 14-room hotel jammed up property line to property line. I don't think it fits for the town, especially not in the residential district. A couple of things that I did have underlined on here was that they wanted to use the whole property, and there is an 8-foot wide alleyway that goes along there that has sewer in it. There's also power lines, they go underground up there too. So there's numerous issues which were, like I said, were outlined very well in here. I agree with the statements, and as do my parents. And we just wanted to go on record saying that we do oppose it. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda format?
Make a motion to approve.
What?
I have written comments.
Oh, you do, I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay, this is in reference to the Parsons Building, 209 Mason Avenue, from Barrett Cree. He said, dear Mr. DeRay, thank you for the opportunity to comment on the conditional use permit for the above referenced property. As an active real estate professional specializing in sales of Cape Charles' town properties, we are in favor of this conditional use permit being approved as submitted. As we understand it, the benefits of the restoration of the Parsons Building as planned are diverse and in keeping with the historical character of Cape Charles. First, approving the mixed use of the building for the residential and commercial would be compatible with many other of the town's buildings and will add to the economic strength of Cape Charles. Second, plans for the handicap accessible units will serve the special needs of future residents by providing units offering the capability of an aging-in-place lifestyle, much needed in town. Thirdly, as one of our most prominent historical buildings, it will finally be faithfully restored, returning to service one of the town's greatest buildings that has long been in a state of dilapidation and vacancy. Please give this conditional use permit your approval. We ask that this letter be read into the public record. Thank you for your consideration in this matter. Sincerely, Barrett Cree. We have another one submitted by Peter and Noel Lawrence, 7 American Court, Cape Charles, Virginia. Dear Mr. DeRay, we learned recently that Dan Meyer of Dowling Construction is looking to develop the Parson Building on Mason Street. We've heard about his plans to have retail and apartments or condos in the building and feel this would be a great addition to the town. Adding businesses and residents in the downtown area will help continue the revival taking place in our wonderful town, and we imagine it would improve tax revenue too. We support this initiative. Sincerely, Pete Lawrence and Noel. This one is from Terry Carney and Nancy Cardone, 1 American Court, 213 Mason Avenue, love letters. I think they're the owners. Dear Mr. DeRay, recently we have become acquainted with Mr. Dan Meyer of Dowling Construction, Inc. He has shown us the Parsons Building and has expressed his vision of developing and rehabbing the building. We are very excited about his plans for retail spaces and condos, apartments in the location. As business owners, love letters, and residents, this would be very beneficial for future tax revenues, residential accommodations, and business opportunities. We fully support his initiative in completing this project. I have another one from Deb McIntyre, 102 Churchill Downs. Dear Mr. DeRay, I have become aware that there is a business opportunity with the Parsons Building. I understand that the plan is to create retail spaces and residential spaces. As Cape Charles continues to thrive, I feel this is a positive for our town's business and housing opportunities. Sincerely, Deb. And that is all.
Thank you. Okay, do we have an approval of the agenda format?
I make a motion that we approve the agenda for this evening of March 5, 2019.
I'll second it, but I'll also comment that we had emails that was going to drop item 6C, the 238 Randolph, that's not being prepared yet for presentation to us.
That is in fact the case?
That is, yes, we delete the.
Okay, so under new business, 6C, application for zoning map amendment, rezone 238 Randolph Avenue from R1 to C1, review and set public hearing date. The applicant has withdrawn his application, correct?
Yes.
All right. So remove that from the agenda. need a motion to amend as changed. You can do it.
Just make it an amendment of the opposed change to what's, to the agenda.
Okay, so we have a motion to
Second.
approve the agenda as amended.
Yeah, right, second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Approval of the minutes from February 5th. I have one comment, and that is at the heading. It wasn't a public hearing, it was just a regular meeting. That's all I saw. Anybody else?
I make the motion that we accept the meeting minutes with that particular correction in the heading.
A second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Reports. The town planner put out a report with the Historic District Review Board, the Harbor Area Review Board, the Board of Zoning Appeals, the Wetlands and Coastal Dune Board, and he also included the state annual report for fiscal 2018. Are there any discussions on that? From the commission? Right. Moving right along into unfinished business.
Alright, 5A, this is, the location is 615 Monroe Avenue. The proposal is a conditional use permit for an accessory dwelling unit. The zoning district that is located in is residential 1, R1 zoning district, and historic overlay district. This is the location of where it's at, for your reference. Photos of the existing property as it is currently. And this is the rendering of the proposed accessory structure. So some information, it's a 960 square foot, 2-story accessory structure with a dwelling unit above a garage. The height is 23 feet. Off-street parking will be provided with access from the alley and 4 Monroe Avenue. And the applicant stated that it's going to be proposed as a use for, and they're removing the shed that's currently on the structure, the small shed that you saw in the pictures. And the recommendation is approval for the conditional use permit.
Okay, we all heard this this last month. We've had a chance to study it. Any discussion from the commission on this conditional use permit?
Make a motion that we accept the conditional use permit for 615 Monroe as written.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Abstain. I wasn't here last night.
We have one abstention. Okay. Conditional use permit is approved, so it will now go to town council.
Alright.
Moving right along. We have a proposed text amendment to town zoning ordinance, Article 4, Section 4.5.f.1.k and 4.5.1, review and make recommendations to town council.
So as you can see up here, section 4.5.1 is a portion of the table of parking standards. The recommendation is to add under the residential commercial nature of use column, to add mixed-use development. And the parking standards would be 1 space per 1-bedroom dwelling unit, otherwise 2 spaces per dwelling unit plus 1 additional space per 200 square feet of gross floor area. So that's the first of the 2 text amendments. The second one is in section 4.5.f.1.k under marking and maintenance. Parking stalls and paved areas shall be marked as such. This would be the addition here in red. For new construction mixed-use developments, parking stalls for residential units shall be identified by appropriate signage. And staff recommends approval of both as proposed.
Any discussion? We had this last month, too.
I'll make a motion that we accept the proposed changes to Article 4, Section 4.5.1, and Section 4.5F1.K. As written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Okay. Any other unfinished business? Not. Move on to new business. Application for conditional use permit, residential unit above first floor, commercial in the Commercial 1 district at 209 Mason Avenue.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, Madam Clerk. The reason I'm giving this presentation is, in the interest of full disclosure, the applicant is the town planner's landlord, not mine.
That's a good reason.
I also miss the planning commission, so it's nice to be back in the old neighborhood too, for something. This is a conditional use permit application for residential dwelling units above first floor commercial at 209 Mason Avenue, also known as the Parsons Building. The property owner is here. As supposed to answer any specifics that the commission may have. It's a building in the C1 district. The only conditional use allowed for in the C1 district is residential above commercial. It's also an historic district overlay, so any exterior changes to the building will need to go to that board for its appropriate consideration. Staff recommendation is at this point approval. The 2016 comprehensive plan promotes the idea of residential and commercial mixed-use development along Mason Avenue. That document speaks to precisely that sort of development and a number of locations in that document. The site does allow for some off-street parking, as well as the property owner, as you can see from this letter, is requesting the agreement with the town to use the shared parking lot, which is within the 600-foot linear distance. Staff analysis, staff finds no reason to prevent this application from moving forward to public hearing. The applicant must meet all procedural obligations before beginning work at the residential unit. Upon approval of the conditional use permit, the applicant will have 1 year to demonstrate progress toward the completion of the project as enumerated in the appropriate code section. A number of years ago, this building was approved for conditional use for residential units above the commercial, but that permit at the time expired without any progress on that scope of work. The staff recommendation is to review the conditional use permit, discuss, provide direction as needed, and recommends next regular planning commission meeting Tuesday, April 2nd as the date for the public hearing.
Thank you. Tim. Discussion.
I have a question about the parking in the rear. How does one access that parking?
Man, my name is Danny Mayer. I'm the owner of 209 Mason, and my name is Danny Mayer. I'm the owner of 209 Mason, and the access to the rear of the building is as it is currently off of Randolph. There's an access road behind all of the retail spaces, behind the library, behind the Brown Dog, and then Caldwell Bank, and then Bible Bank.
That access road, whose land is that on?
Actually, man, half of it is my land. Or
But the
behind
part
my
off,
building.
right off Randolph.
I believe it belongs to the town.
It does belong to town. Will there be any work done on that little access road to make it easier to get to your parking?
I have been told that the access may change to come off of the road that's the library, behind the library, but I think that's a town suggestion and not mine.
It may happen. As you know, there's a parcel that's designated as a future parking lot. With ingress and egress both on Pine Street currently and on Randolph.
Taking that turn off Randolph, that access road there is a disaster. It's got huge potholes. You end up driving over on the other property to get there. So if we're allowing you to have 8 parking spaces, there ought to be a reasonable access to it. So either it needs to come from the library and be paved, or that Randolph has to be fixed to some extent so that it can be reasonably used.
There's a residence behind it that has a garage now, so I guess there's access to that private residence.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I believe there's a garage behind the residence on that road, on that access road now, so I'm assuming they've got access on that same road from Randolph.
Have you been on that road? On that access road?
I haven't driven on it though.
Okay. You might want to do that. But regardless, all I'm saying is that is not reasonable access to those 8 parking spaces. So if we're calling those 8 parking spaces, the access to those 8 parking spaces has got to be better. And if we use that access road that's there, I don't have a problem with that, but it just can't be in the condition it currently is in.
Okay, and that's gonna be a town issue as opposed to this issue.
If that's town property, that's a town issue, and
It's no different from what we discussed with the shanty. We own that parking lot and we're responsible for those potholes there too as well.
Right, except the shanty, at least you can get to it. This building, you can only get to it from that road. I'm just saying, if you're going to use those as approved parking spaces, then you have to be able to get to it.
well, in this thing, it shows that there's 8 parking spaces there, and the other 8 parking spaces would be over across the street in the around the parking lot. So you bring up a good point. I mean, if it's town, but if it's town property, then the town would be responsible for making sure that there's access there, correct?
That's correct, no different from the shanty coming to us and saying, you got to fix your parking lot, which they have done. So we're entertaining that right now.
Can we send it to the town council with the request, I guess, that they put something in about doing that?
Absolutely, we can put that in.
Yeah, something should be noted in there to bring that to their attention.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I grew up on that block. Since I was a child. Historically, my parents have been in that house up 240 since for 47 years. Historically, there was an alleyway beside Ms. White's house, which was 212, which is the one you're talking about. And that was how the trash trucks and fire trucks or anything else accessed the rear of those buildings on that street. And it was maintained by the town years and years ago. Anybody could go in there. And you're also correct that the alleyway came in from Pine Street originally, and then they did away with that because of the hotel that was on the corner and started using that one. The other access on that lot for the back of the buildings was directly behind Watson's. That goes back to his property. But all of those alleyways was used by the town and power companies or whoever to get to those lanes. So yes, you're probably correct. It probably is the town's responsibility for that. And yes, it does need to be fixed. I agree with that. But that's just a little history on the alleyways of that block. I mean, that was trash cans right in the front street. They went in the back and the trucks came around and out. Just to give you a little history, but I understand.
Where would the town's ownership end? If you get on Randolph and you head in there, where does the town end?
I'm not ready to answer that question.
Yeah, that's deep, because
Right.
the Breezes building, where Breezes was, there was actually an alleyway that went all the way down behind those stores that you go
Right.
way back in
And
history.
it's not there anymore?
And that's not there anymore.
Yeah.
That encroaches on it, and a little building behind Watson's where he used to keep his lumber encroached on it, and they kind of did away with it years ago, long before my time, but I still remember. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we do have a member of town council on planning commission, so this will go, and so I'm sure, but we need to do make a note of that about the ingress, egress, and ingress into the parking behind the building, right? Any other questions for the owner? Thank you. Any other discussion?
And April 2nd is what you were saying? Second, third.
Somebody want
All
to make a
right, so I'll
motion?
make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit for 209 Mason Avenue with the 3 retail spaces on the ground floor, 2 ADA condominiums at the rear, and 3 condominiums on each of the floors, 2 and 3, and set a public meeting for April 2nd.
And?
No, I'm not going to make it a condition of his approval. We can make a separate recommendation to town council.
Yep. You shouldn't
We
block
can
him.
take that up as a separate
It's an
recommendation.
issue.
or
It's an
motion.
issue. Yep.
Well, if we don't separate it out and we put them together, the town council can't themselves separate it out if they feel they need to?
The town council can direct that be done. They can direct.
That it be divided?
No.
I'm
Here's the
sorry.
point.
Yeah.
For the town to step up to the role they're charged with should not impact his ability to get a conditional use, period. And that's what this discussion is about. It's his conditional use, not about the quality of the road. Not to say that there's no issue there. That's not my point. The point is, he doesn't need to suffer because this town is not doing due diligence. He can be an advocate to encourage town to do due diligence, considering he's impacted by that when he moves forward with his application, if he decides to move forward with it. But it should not be a condition on his.
Is he required to have 16 parking spaces?
Yes.
So, in fact, approval would give him maybe more ammunition to be able to get that done. Because it's not, like Timmy said, it's not his problem.
Right.
So he shouldn't be held in any way lacking because of this situation. Just the same way with Shanty, it has to do the best it can given the parking situation, although at times it has been extremely bad.
Well, I certainly don't want to hold him up. I like this proposal, but I just feel like if you're saying he needs 16 parking spaces and 8 of them are in a place where it is really difficult to get to, then how does he have 16 parking spaces? He has 8, and that's in the town lot. So if we say to the council, he can only get his parking spaces if you fix the road, isn't that better for him?
That isn't our job.
Yeah, you're recommending, first of all, you're recommending to the town council, so they'll ultimately decide. It's gonna be a capital project that they take on and weigh against all the other capital projects they have.
Right.
Okay, and if they decide not to do it, then this man has 8 parking spaces and not 16.
No,
Well, in
he has
reality,
the ability to approach the town council and state his case there and reemphasize the need
Okay,
for.
so then if he can't get those 8, if he can't get that alleyway fixed, then the council could deny him because he only has 8 spaces. Or the council could approve him and say he only has 8 spaces.
Or if the town takes more than a year, he loses his CUP fee and has to go back again. Because he's not gonna wanna put capital in until he gets done, correct? And that fee is what, $350?
This,
CUP fee.
335, this, 350.
335, okay, whatever. Point is, that CUP is valid for a year. And like Larry mentioned, at the end of the year, there has to be some visible sign of progress for that to be renewed again and continue, because the CUP goes with the land. He can choose, after the CUP is approved, to wait and see what the town does before he commits any more capital. And that's the power he has to encourage the town to move forward. Because he's not gonna put dump a bunch of dollars into something that he has no assurance he can actually get to with reasonable road surface.
And you don't think that it's also in the town's interest that he be able to use those 8 parking spaces?
Okay. The town has a formal process it uses for capital expenditures. That's an annual process. Those expenditures are already spoken for a year in advance. The council has to figure out how it's going to play that game to make the commitment to pull money out of existing program and dedicate it for fixing that road. That's not our issue. That's the council's issue.
So is the town willing to give him, to say that he could use 16 parking spaces in the town lot?
The applicant has not petitioned the application.
Of course, we are not granting the permit, we are just saying to the town council,
Right.
you know, it's up to you, and they can, if this
Exactly.
is,
Yep.
if this is something that they want to chew on or something,
Yep.
that's their prerogative.
Yeah, and he can take that up with council.
So are we recommending that or not?
Well, we can make a separate recommendation from this committee to the town council for this issue,
Correct. Exactly.
Right.
okay?
Yep.
Okay?
Also, just to read,
That's why I wanted the divorce.
this is only to set the public hearing date, and then after that is.
Right.
Right.
So,
All right, so I made a motion.
we have a second.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
You should remember this.
Opposed?
Yeah.
All right, so while we're on here, does somebody want to make a separate motion to town council?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not sure how I want to word it. I recommend to the town council that in approving this application, they agree to fix the access off Randall.
I would say, you could also say that they could ensure or that the applicant has 16 spaces. That way.
Usable spaces.
Usable spaces.
Accessible.
Accessible.
There you go. Okay, yes, that's fine.
I'm going for that.
Okay, good.
All right.
Good.
Like, okay, so I make a motion that with this application, we recommend that the town council provide or town council approve. The next word is,
Allocate funds to ensure that that 8 spaces are accessible.
8 spaces are accessible.
From the fall for rain.
Off of Randolph.
Right.
Okay, that's it.
I second it.
Further discussion?
Now, wait, I have a question. Is that going with the application or it's separate?
It's a separate.
Two different
Separate.
things?
Right,
Okay,
right,
so
right.
then you said in there that it would be part of.
No, I stopped it. I
Oh,
stopped
okay,
it.
thank you.
Okay, any other discussion, questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Okay. Item 6B. Application for conditional use permit, convert an existing 2-story detached garage to to a garage on the first floor and an accessory dwelling unit on the second floor at 649 Randolph. Review and set public hearing.
So this is in the residential one in the historic overlay district. Here's the location on the corner of Fig and Randolph. Photo of the existing. Another photo of the existing. This was taken to the Historic District Review Board and approved for a certificate of appropriateness. I think it's February 19th. And off-street parking, it was stated by the applicants that the off-street parking will be provided on the existing driveway.
Okay, discussion from the commission.
All right, I make a motion that we set, again, April 2nd as our public meeting date for this particular application.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to set a public hearing date for April 2nd, 2019 on 649 Randolph. All in favor? Opposed? All right. 6D, application for zoning map amendment and text amendments. Request to add a cottage overlay district to the harbor district for tax map parcels 83 alpha 3 dash alpha dash 17 and 83 alpha 3 dash alpha dash 19, 83 A3 dash alpha dash 20, 83 alpha 3 dash 11 dash 1. Review and set a public hearing date. Discussion. You want to talk about this?
Well, I just
Please.
wanted to show you, this is, I've got a lot actually to kind of help you guys out with on this one. It's extensive. But we have, this is the location, so it's 10 acres just south of the harbor on 4 parcels. It's a partial, one parcel is just partial, due to wetlands, non-buildable area. So the applicant has provided a statement. Well, this might be, if Eric would like to speak on behalf of it, you can do that. Or I can go through it for you.
How would you like to do it?
I'll go through it, and if you have anything to add at the end, just, okay, so statement of intent that was provided in the letter of intent. So the intent of this zoning district is to encourage a vibrant living and working waterfront area that is both a strong economic benefit to the town with compatible new industry and employment uses, and a strong public and recreational value with public gathering places and access to water, a place for people to conduct business and to live, meet, relax, encounter nature, and learn the Cape Charles working maritime heritage and its strong historic traditions. Any new developments shall provide and encourage public access to the water's edge, as well as emphasize the pedestrian environment throughout the harbor while maintaining maritime, industrial, and recreational uses. There's a few items that they specifically mention for the overlay district. They're proposing to reduce the minimum lot size from 11,200 square feet to 5,600 square feet. They're proposing construction materials to be allowed, metal roofing with architectural shingles, traditional siding such as wood plank or hardy board, and or whitewashed or painted brick, and hard whitewashed or painted brick or wood plank underpinning for the foundation. They're proposing parking areas shall be buffered and landscaped and located behind homes/businesses which face the water in between a green space or recreational area. The height requirements and the commercial and mixed use development requirements are proposed to remain the same as the underlying harbor district zoning. Just an overview, what is an overlay district, right? So An overlay district, I wrote this in my staff report, but just for more information, if you have any questions on it. An overlay district is a special zone placed over an existing zoning district that includes a set of regulations applied to the property within the overlay zone, in addition to the requirements of the underlying zoning district. So the proposed cottage overlay district would have special regulations for property within that overlay district area, and where not specified, the requirements of the harbor district would still be enforced. The staff analysis, so 5,600 square foot minimum lot sizes, it mimics the R1 zoning district. Currently, the minimum is 11,200 square feet in the harbor district for minimum lot size. So with a smaller minimum lot size, it allows for a mix of residential development styles, including single-family detached and duplexes, just smaller developments. Floor area ratio is 1.75 by right and 2.0 with a conditional use permit, which is pretty high density, which I think is what medium to high density is what we want to see in the harbor district, based off of our guidelines, master plan, and comp plan. So another thing, 3.9.E.6 state the ordinance in the harbor district says that single-family and multifamily residential units are allowed with a conditional use permit in the harbor district, provided the following 3 items are met. The dwelling unit shall have access to the street. The dwelling unit shall not occupy more than 50% of the first floor, and the first floor facades shall have a commercial appearance. These B and C do restrict the ability for single-family detached homes, duplexes, and townhomes to be developed, as you can tell as reading them. The harbor district guidelines state that brick, stone, cast concrete, wood, and glass are appropriate materials for construction. The proposed materials for the overlay district would allow more inexpensive development and more affordable housing to be developed there. And then staff recommends the following to take into consideration: remove B and C to allow single and multifamily residential development by right, to allow 5,600 square foot minimum lot sizes, allow accessory dwelling units as a conditional use permit, or with a conditional use permit, to not allow short-term rentals, and to add the proposed materials as acceptable materials and require parking in the rear for all development, not just those located adjacent to waterfront. And then for today, direct staff to set a public hearing for April 2nd, or also the applicant, or have the applicant draft a cottage overlay district ordinance, because what they've proposed tonight is more of just an idea of what they want to see and do, but it's not something that, there's not an actual ordinance that we're really adopting here. There's not one written out or anything like that, so that's kind of where we're at.
Okay, I'll open this for discussion. I can start off. If you went back to your original slide that said, what is an overlay district? So, an overlay district is a special zone placed over an existing zoning district that includes a set of regulations. So, my first inclination is we need to have a cottage overlay district drafted. That's mine. With what they have proposed, where it's have its own guidelines that wouldn't affect the rest of the harbor. All right. So that's Bill Stray I'm talking as the commissioner. So that's mine.
I'll add to it that I'm not sure why I see this any different from the balance of the harbor district.
Yeah.
Right now, the balance of the harbor district is zoned mixed use, and I don't believe that that is going to stay mixed use given the needs of this town relative to housing that this proposal addresses. So in my mind, the entire harbor district should be reviewed along these lines.
Yeah, I think I'm of the same opinion. I think this should just be the beginning of a very valuable discussion that in the update of the comprehensive plan could be a big piece of it, because I left last night at the meeting we had with Larry's, do we want to be a historic town with a beach or a beach with a historic town? But I thought maybe the harbor area is where we can get out of that decision basically and say, well, we've got more than just that now. We've also got a flourishing, and I'm looking into the future, a flourishing harbor area, say in the tourist times where people in the evening have more than just a few little restaurants. There's a lot of places to be developed and determined that they can go in the harbor area that are separate from the historic area and all. It wasn't like any answers yet, but a vision of that might. There might be a maritime history as well as a railroad history in the future that this all could grow into. It was the beginning of ideas that I think are kind of coalescing with what we're just hearing. But it's only the beginning, and I think there ought to be a lot of back and forth before we ever come to any real final conclusion.
To me, we need a work session between Planning Commission, Town Council, and the Harbor Area Review Board.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
On
people
this
on the Harbor Area
subject,
Review Board, I want to know what they
and
think, but if they can speak for the Harbor Area Review Board, whether any of this makes sense from the Harbor Review Board standpoint.
The applicant would like to talk.
Matt Brooks.
Yes.
Out of curiosity, have any of you all been on the planning commission back in 2006, 7, and 8?
No.
The Harbor District was developed back then. I'm not sure how or why, but it's a fail. You can't do it. And what that means is that today, on our site, we have harbor, and we hope to open that up by April. But a bank, you can't get traditional financing for that because of how Harbor District is written. It's not written for today's economic times and how you finance things. It's almost impossible.
What makes it that way?
Because banks are scared of this commercial, you've got to have a lot of other assets to get a commercial loan besides the property it sits on. Credit doesn't get underwritten on the cash flow of a restaurant on the Cape Charles Harbor or a boat repair shop or something like that. That's not how the underwriting of credit standards that are used today. And
So if we gave you this district, then how would that change?
let me talk about this a little bit.
Okay.
So we came to this planning commission and then the board back in 2008, and we got a special use permit to operate a boat yard. Gladly, last Friday, we sold the boat yard. And we sold it to a really cool company out of Belfast, Maine, called the Front Street Shipyard, who are going to grow this exponentially. And we're moving over on the Cunningham site that we got adjusted to industrial, if you remember. Mm-hmm. And they are building that out really quickly. You'll see a great big industrial floating crane come in here in the next 2 weeks and start throwing in pilings. It's a change. There are little cottage industries that will come because of this. Matter of fact, when the megalift gets built, we have 5 businesses that will come with Front Street the minute they know the megalift is going to come in. We bought this industrial park over there, and some of it was Harbor District zoning to be able to feed this industry. But we're really not zoned to do it. So when we started talking to Mr. DeRay, maybe 6 months ago was the first time, we had to find a way to do this. And without changing everything and without going through a whole zoning and all this stuff changing, this was the simplest way to do it, was to do an overlay district. You've never seen a harbor district zoning application come to, that hasn't been a public application to the harbor. Never. It's a complete failure. Even the shanties, the town's property, it's a complete failure. So now all of a sudden, we're 5 years in, we have an opportunity to really grow, and it's time for us to change. And we gotta grow to what the change is. We've had the boatyard open for 5 years. We've proved to a market. Mr. Bannon was here when people would make promises. 8 years ago, he said, hey, I'm not going to make a decision tonight. We've heard promises. Well, guess what? It's here. We've invested our money. We've done our due diligence. We created a market. And we've got the very best of its class out of New England that's just invested in this town. Sadly, the town doesn't have economic development money or matching money. But what you do have is the ability to make it easier. Because the next thing I'm going to come to in the next week is that there's 26 acres at the boatyard that was on the back side of the boatyard, back near what we call the STIP building where Fuji Films now has. Because I need places for workforce. I know how many jobs this is going to bring. The town's not ready.
Are you talking about residential?
Yes. I need housing. I need it today, not in 5 days. I need it today. So this is how we got to overlay district, was an easier way to do that. All the area on that map, so what we've done with Front Street is that we have a lease purchase. So none of that's going to be developed out today because all the industrial's not even ready yet. But we need to prepare, and we don't need to procrastinate anymore. We've made our investment. We proved the market was here. Now we got to catch up to it on this side, if that's fair to say.
How fast do you think you need it?
Honestly, immediately. Immediately. Harbor District failed.
And Harbor District then should be changed.
Absolutely.
And it should be changed then along these lines and not specific to this overlay. If we're going to expedite something along these lines, that doesn't say that we can't expand that to the whole Harbor District
Look,
area.
I wish you could change it overnight, the whole Harbor District thing.
Okay, but whatever you have in steps here is going to be having to go through all the necessary steps to get to the end, right? You might as well change it, or we might as well change it to harbor area.
And that's fine, but let's be realistic about it. And 10 years ago, there were some people involved that didn't understand what they had done.
And I don't disagree with you.
Right.
Times have changed.
Right.
The town council recognizes the harbor district has to change.
Right. So I had to start somewhere.
Okay, and you're a good starting point to get us rolling along those.
Let me jump in here real quick. Understand where he's coming from. They have already laid in a bunch of capital. They're expecting to see something come back in terms of return on that investment. That's the pressure.
Okay, but yeah, I understand there's urgency associated with it, but that's not for us to all of a sudden bend over backwards for one aspect. I don't mind keeping it on our fast track, but I'm looking to expand the conversation to the harbor district along with this. That's all.
No, I understand.
And if that happens, we'd like to be involved in that. We would, as a property owner on that harbor, I mean, I've got a little over 150 acres on the south side and 18% of the north side. I want to be asked about it. I want somebody to respect me enough to say, you've invested in this, this is where you started and what you said you wanted to do. How can we help you get there?
And that's terrific. Would welcome that. Okay?
And I would love that question. And that question never even came out of anybody's mouth till Larry Renshaw.
Okay, so again, I'll go back to a work session between those three groups to facilitate and expedite this kind of dialogue.
Right.
But I'm gonna come back to my same question. Sure, you'd like it today, but how much time do you really think?
Well, so here's
Do
the
you have
deal.
1 month, do you have a year?
I've got 6 months.
Okay.
I've got time. But I don't want to just die on the vine. Some things just die on the vine here. Now all of a sudden I've got $10 million in on the south side, and all of a sudden the circus came to town. We don't have any peanuts to sell. You have nothing. You have no housing product to sell whatsoever. Nothing. The circus is in town, not a damn peanut around. We've got to put it on the front page.
Can we put your staff recommendations back up there? And then you had also said that there were a couple of other things based on what they had asked for that you wanted. Well, they had proposed materials as acceptable materials to add to what is already in the historic district, correct?
Yeah, so you would just be, in the overlay, it would be like, not in lieu of those materials, but in addition to, so people
Right.
could also
Right.
go with those other materials.
I agree with that. We need to have a meeting, and we need to have it as soon as we can.
As soon as possible.
But we could also, if the staff recommends that, if we want to have any discussion on that, I mean, it's,
Yeah, I'll look at it. I'm fine with it.
so, I mean, we can go ahead and make a recommendation based on those recommendations, and they asked to schedule a public hearing.
I'm not agreeing with that.
A work session, well, no, but I'm talking about, well, what you're saying is, you're okay with that, but you want to, as a start
to weigh in, and council weighs in on this particular area. Might as well do it right up front and get all the comments out on the table so that we come away with a clean slate, and if that's the clean slate, that everybody gives a thumbs up, then we can start moving through all our public hearings, and we can combine the public hearings and not hold them in series. But Harb certainly would want to take a look at what's being proposed here.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
I just like to say, I find this very exciting because I know nothing about maritime. I swim, but I don't have a boat or anything, but back in 2010, when I took the class you're just finishing, the final exam question was, what is the biggest growth area for your town, and how does VDOT play into that? And I said, well, what I feel, I think it's, we've got the only harbor potential in the whole Chesapeake Bay, and I think that's a growth area. But as far as, it wasn't like you're going to fail because you didn't include VDOT. I said, where does VDOT fit? And they said, well, unless they build a bridge or something, it's not. But that was my honest to goodness belief then, and I had no idea how it would come about. But if more time and attention were paid on that, that was, I mean, certainly, I think, one of the ideas been mentioned that in the ocean, the standards are different than the bay and all, and I know when it was signed in England, the first thing you had to do was get your car converted so you could use it in that country, and all the whole idea of transitioning played positively in my head, and for many reasons, it just seems like it is a good growth area. Again, I don't know the weeds or the details about any of this, but conceptually, it just seems like the growth area for us right now.
Mr. Chairman, it would be obtuse of me to come in here tonight and think that you're just gonna say, oh, this is great, let's do it.
Yeah, right.
But I just need to start, and I need to keep going.
And we agree.
And we agree.
What would we expect to get out of the work session? Maybe a combined committee to keep going and get it done?
Yes.
And
Okay.
a meaningful
Right.
steps that we could
Well, I will
reasonably take
tell,
down.
I will tell everybody here that we have, probably the first time, maybe Councilman Bannon can correct me on this, but we now have joint working set meetings with various entities, town council, planning commission, harbor review, Cape Charles Main Street, and it's working well. And like the parking committee. So,
I got parking, don't worry about parking, get into that.
Well, do you have this area laid out?
No, I don't know, I don't have a clue. I've got conceptual stuff, but I'm so, no, sir.
All right, well, that's another application that's gonna have to come to the table,
No,
right?
I get it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but I had to start somewhere.
okay, so, I guess what we need to do is have a motion to,
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we have on this particular subject, a joint meeting with town council and the Harbor Area Review Board. And in addition, to expand that conversation to Harbor District. And at that time, they can decide, no, we want to collapse it just to this, or no, that's a good.
yeah.
I'll second it.
Further discussion? And of course, the town will be involved.
Town council and Harvard review.
And
Do we need to have
can
a
Mr.
district?
Baldwin be involved if he has any?
Well, it's a
if we
public
have
assurance.
questions?
It's a public
Okay,
session, so,
public
yeah, so,
All right.
absolutely, he can be involved.
Work session is a public session.
Public session, yeah,
Yeah.
public work session.
Yeah,
All right.
okay, so any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Like,
We're excited for you.
All right, 6E, proposed text amendment to town zoning ordinance, Article 4, Section 4.5, and Section 4.6, review and set a public hearing date. You want to discuss this?
Yes, so, since it's a large document, it's a lot of changes that need to be discussed, we could maybe split it up into two sections. And I just identified, of course, this is open to discussion. First section, A through F, and with the hopes of reviewing and providing comments prior, like you guys reviewing and providing comments possibly if necessary, prior to the April 2nd meeting, and then we discuss it, we kind of hash that section out. And then the second section would be G through O, and that would be reviewing, providing comments and discussion at the May 7th meeting. So that's about 2 months, and then scheduled work sessions is needed for additional discussion or comments. And then in hopes that we could get to a public hearing at the June 4th meeting and then recommendations to the town council.
And you would welcome one-on-ones with some of us
Yeah.
to go through, maybe just, I need to understand as opposed to have a question.
Exactly.
Discussion on his proposal?
I think it's a good idea. It's awful lot of
And
material.
its document is very much what we asked for last time. A mock-up of what we have with commentary as to why certain things were done.
Right. Okay, so, can I get a motion?
I make a motion that we have 2 review sections, one on April 2nd and one on May 7th, to review sections A through F on the 1st and G through O on the 2nd.
Just as part of our regular
Right.
planning commission meeting, that's it. Second.
Got a second? Any further discussion? Dennis, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Other business. I have something. I just want to let the commission know that from our last meeting, Commissioner Grossman provided a letter on the discussion that he had had at this meeting about the six areas that we should concentrate on. He drafted a letter. I reviewed it and I forwarded it to the town manager to provide to town council. So there may be a possibility that I have to go before town council to discuss that at their next session. Am I correct in that?
You are correct.
Okay. So I just wanted to let you all know. I will provide all the commissioners with that letter. Okay?
Okay, good.
Right.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Any other business?
I have one item. I just want proof to show that I am smarter than I was last month by having graduated from so this is proof that I am smarter. The wife still doubts it.
Of course she does.
Any other announcement? Any other business? Any announcements? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Thank you.